What is up, Flockers? That is my fellow Lockers and aspiring Lockers. In today's video, we're going to be talking about if Microlocs and Sisterlocks, the movement, is now the new natural hair movement. So if you want to talk about it, then stick around. So it has been a while since I have done one of these types of videos where I'm just kind of discussing and talking about a topic, but I was scrolling on the intranets, as EJ Speaks says all the time, and I was on Instagram actually, and I saw a post by Tiny Locs Official, or Tiny Official Locs. I can't remember exactly the handle, but I saw a post and it was saying, are Microlocs the new natural hair movement? And I thought, man, that's really interesting. So I wanted to dive in and kind of talk about that today. And of course, I want the Flockers to sound off. So make sure you get in the comments and let me know your thoughts about this so that we can talk about it and have a discussion. Now, when I first thought about this and I saw this post, I started diving in just to my thoughts and thinking. And I was like, you know what? Whoever thought of this or came up with this, whether it was the Tiny Official Locs or it was someone else, actually might be onto something. And why I say that is simply because there are some similarities in the path of the natural hair movement and kind of where this Tiny Locs movement is going and whatnot. Now, depending on what area of the States or what other country you live in, you may or not see it represented a lot, but it is definitely a growing community and something that is growing. So I thought it would be interesting to talk about and kind of compare the two communities. And what I'd say is that if you go back to the beginning of the natural hair movement, there was a time before it was called a natural hair movement. There was a time where there were just people who were brave enough to kind of pioneer that before it even became a movement, and people that were just living in their truth and loving their natural hair. And maybe at the time in the beginning, people were looking at them like they were crazy, like you look like a pickaninny, what's going on with your hair, you're rocking your natural texture, like that's not what we do, we go for the Eurocentric look. And so I'm just assuming and guessing that there was probably a lot of ridicule in the beginning for people who were at the forefront of this natural hair movement. Like I said, because it was something that was new, it was something that wasn't culturally accepted. Even in our culture, you know, in Black culture, we weren't accepting of people wearing their natural hair. It was supposed to be fried, dyed, and laid to the side, you know, not showing off your afro texture or your curly or wavy pattern or anything like that. So when you fast forward, then you have more people that are getting into it, you know. I mean, I would say way down the line because it was just a recent thing, but now we have the Crown Act and stuff like that. So the natural hair movement has shifted and it's been more globally accepted by a lot of people. Now you've got Black men and women who are accepting their hair a lot more. And we won't talk about the negative aspects of the natural hair movement, but just keeping it on the positive side and people, you know, self-acceptance and things like that and self-expression. So then I feel like there was even this time where the natural hair movement became kind of like a fad. It was a cool thing to do. So you had the people who were doing it before it was a cool thing. Then you have the people that kind of joined in on this fad. And I would say probably a majority of them didn't last. Like there are some that are still holding strong and still natural, but there are a lot that might have tried it out and maybe, you know, for a couple of months or maybe even for several years were able to do the natural hair, but eventually they were just like, got to go back to that creamy sauce because it's a lot of work for some people, understandably so. So then, you know, that's kind of how all, of course, in a very quick and fast wrapped up nutshell, but I feel like things have gone kind of in the natural hair community. And I feel like it might almost be the same for Microlocs. And I'm not talking about locks in general, because obviously locks in general have been around for a long time and they had their own movement of traditional locks and freeform and semi-freeform and things like that. But I'm speaking specifically to Sisterlocks, Microlocs, Tiny Locs, you know, whatever you want to call them. Locks that are smaller than a pencil, smaller than your average size, what you would consider traditional locks. So I see a lot more people with these now, and maybe it's just because I have them, so I'm more aware when I'm out, but I feel like the number of people that are getting them installed is growing and growing. And probably in the same way, you know, back 10 years or however long ago when Dr. I think that's how you say her name, but you know, the founder of Sisterlocks and the creator, when she started all of this and people started wearing their hair, women, specifically at the time started wearing their hair in these tinier locks, I'm sure it was frowned upon, probably by the traditional lock community, because they're like, what are you doing with these tiny locks in your hair? And just in general, from the people who were not fans of locks. So, you know, those that came before it was a movement kind of were the pioneers to do something that was different, that wasn't necessarily culturally acceptable, that wasn't new, that might have been frowned upon. And they did it before it became a cool thing. They did it before it became a fad. Now I feel like it's kind of becoming a fad where people are wanting to try something new. Maybe they're tired of dealing with their, you know, natural hair care or their loose natural hair care regimen where they're having to detangle, and wash days are taking all day or multiple days during the weekend or whatever it may be. So people are looking for something where they can still kind of rock their natural texture, but in the same sense kind of keep their hair stretched, so that way every time you wash it and, you know, moisture hits it, it's not shriveling up to a small afro or anything like that. So like I said, I feel like we're in this movement now where there's a wave of tiny lockers who are coming through, and it's probably going to be the same like it was with the loose natural community, where you have people that end up sticking through for a long time, and you got the old vets that already got hair down to their feet, or maybe they've cut their hair 15 times over the years because they keep trimming it up as it's gotten super long. And then you'll have people that will come in for 6 months or a year or a couple of years. They'll try it out, then they'll end up combing their locks out, or they'll cut them off and start over or whatnot. Like I said, these are just my thoughts and my opinions. Maybe I'm completely off. So again, respectfully, of course, because if you come at me wrong, you will get blocked, you will get deleted, like whatever. Because as much as I'm for criticism and all that stuff, what we're not going to do is be disrespectful in the comments. So we'll keep it nice, we'll keep it cute. But I'd love to have conversations just to see what you guys think. Do you, whether you already have Microlocs, or you're in the traditional lock family, or you're loose natural or permed or whatever, I'd just be curious to know what your thoughts and opinions are in terms of the natural hair community, the loose natural community, and now with the specifically Microloc community. Or you can sound off about the lock community in general if you have traditional or freeform or anything like that. So love to talk about it, love to hear what you have to say. If you found this video at all helpful, make sure to drop down and hit that like button, as it helps the channel and helps me know what type of content you all are enjoying. And also hit the subscribe button so that you can join the flock. And before you go anywhere, check out some of the other videos that have popped up on the screen. I'll see you there.